Sometimes he's trying to send messages, and sometimes I don't remember, maybe 2-3 months into the season, we were in film in front of everybody, and he goes like, "Yeah, what the fuck is this? This is what you were doing day one. Why did you take a step back? You gotta keep getting better."
So that was my favorite Wemby interview from last season. Just absolutely priceless. He was actually talking, of course, about his head coach, Greg Popovich, there. On today's NBA Rundown show, we are going to spend a little bit of time talking about the San Antonio Spurs, Wemby, and of course the addition of the guy that's already skied down the backside of Career Mountain twice in one, Chris Paul. Look, ultimately, when I think of Wemby, I think of a superstar that has the three key ingredients to actually turn into one of the greatest NBA players of all time. The first is an abundance of amount of talent, just more talent than anybody else in the National Basketball Association, basically at his position. We've all talked about Wemby over the last year essentially just being an alien. And when you watch the things that he can do on the court, it is, sort of alien-like, because we've never seen anybody as tall as Wemby do the things that Wemby can actually do with a basketball. Now, last season, he actually only shot just under 33% from the three-point arc, and I think we all know he's a much better basketball player than that, and I'm sure we will actually see that on full display this year. All right, if you haven't had a chance to subscribe yet to the channel, please go ahead and subscribe, and of course, like this video. Look, every subscription helps, every like helps. Greatly appreciated as we look to grow the channel. Now, Wemby is one of and I have to admit this, one of my favorite players in the NBA right now. Watching Wemby actually help lead his French national team all the way to the gold medal game was just nothing short of amazing. And in fact, if you go back and watch that gold medal game, you will come to the same conclusion that I did, which was pretty simple, that Wemby was actually the best player on the court. Well, that was, of course, until Steph Curry absolutely heated up and pulled the Steph Curry thing that I've seen numerous times up here in the Bay Area over the years. The Steph Curry heroics were just amazing. But Wemby, for the rest of the game, I think was certainly the best basketball player on the court. And I think the three ingredients that Wemby has that a lot of other players in the NBA tend to have 2 out of 3 of them. Now, we all know there's a lot of great shooters, there's a lot of great scorers, and there's a lot of just simply great basketball players in the NBA. Now, there are those players that are just born with this just immense amount of talent. And when you actually look at Wemby and his alien-like figure and the things that he can actually do on the court, it is certainly safe to say that he is in the top 1% of all NBA players right there. Then you include his actual work ethic, and Wemby suddenly ends up in the top 5% of all NBA players. Look, LeBron James, at age 40, 41, or however old he is, he puts in so much time. He takes care of his body, and we know that Wemby is following a similar pattern. Maybe not quite as much as LeBron does at this age, and of course, LeBron's significantly older. But still, Wemby is in the top 5%, I would say, of all players who actually really do work hard on their game. That doesn't mean just working hard on the court and in the gym. That also means actually studying film, and that is something that he does a lot of. In addition to that, so you've got the immense amount of talent, then you've got the work ethic, and in addition to all of that, he's just a very likable guy, isn't he? He's like somebody you'd love to go just grab a glass of French red wine with. I'm just saying, hook me up with some cab without some weird preservatives in it that are actually going to keep me up all night. At the end of the day, I'm close to the Napa over here in the Northern California, so literally a half hour away from Napa. That being said, Wemby is just an amazing basketball player, and I think we've sort of made that point. Now, the San Antonio Spurs as a team have definitely improved over last season, and assuming there are no major injuries to this team, major prolonged injuries to this team, it should at the very least be a play-in basketball team this year. I think anything less than that would be considered a disappointment both by the San Antonio Spurs, by the San Antonio Spurs fans, and just in general, people following the NBA. Victor should have enough talent on this team to help actually push this team at the very least to a play-in position. I will be very disappointed if this San Antonio Spurs team tanks again. Now look, they went out and they made a couple deals. We talked about Chris Paul, how he skied down the backside of Career Mountain a couple times. And I love Chris Paul's game, and we ran some footage earlier of Chris Paul connecting with Victor. And yes, that's going to be really nice in the games that Chris Paul actually plays in. You know he can't play in the games for 35 minutes at this point, and that's okay. You get a lot of leadership from Chris Paul on and off the court that should at the very least help Victor out with the other players on the team. But we know Sochan is getting better. We know Devin Vassell is a really good basketball player. They also went out and got Harrison Barnes. Look, also sort of on the backside of Career Mountain at this point, but still can give you 10 to 15 points a game if you need him. And there is that veteran leadership. Also, he is somebody that has actually won an NBA title. In addition to all of that, they also picked up Stephon Castle in the NBA draft. And while I don't think Stefon Castle will necessarily be in the running for this year's NBA Rookie of the Year, simply because I don't know yet exactly how much playing time he's going to get. Now, if he does get enough playing time, Stefon Castle could certainly be in the running for this year's NBA Rookie of the Year. That's just sort of a question of how the other players who were drafted above him actually fall, and below him for that matter. I've talked about Zach Edey on other videos. I think he's going to have a lot of playing time. Rob Dillingham, we did a video on him last week. I think he's going to get a significant amount of playing time. But is it enough playing time for either of those players to actually win Rookie of the Year? I think Castle is going to prove to Popovich that he can absolutely trust the kid. Castle's a little older than a lot of the other rookies in the league. I think Castle is a mature player already. I think Popovich is going to absolutely love him. So he'll have the time and the opportunity. Look, I think a lot of Reed Sheppard, but I just don't think he's going to have enough playing time in that Houston Rockets lineup to actually win the Rookie of the Year award. And then we saw what the Victor's fellow Frenchman actually did in his preseason debut in Rouchechet, who actually played, to be honest, just great. Absolutely shined in his rookie debut for the Atlanta Hawks. So I think Rookie of the Year is going to be very interesting. But Castle's one of those guys that I definitely have in my top 5 heading into this season that have a legitimate chance. Just depends how the dominoes ultimately fall. So this San Antonio Spurs team, and I've left out a handful of other players that I think can also make a key contribution to this team this year, certainly appear, at least on paper, to have enough depth to, at the very least, get them to a play-in position. Now, it's not always just about play-in positions. It's also about actually having a strong enough offense and a strong enough defense. And we know that Popovich, if he has enough tools, is still one of the best coaches in the National Basketball Association. So ultimately, I think where we're at, after watching Victor in the summer play for the French team, and willing to actually put, at times, not the whole time, but at times, that French team on his shoulders, I think you're going to see a far more assertive version of Victor Wembanyama this season than we saw in his rookie season. From a statistical standpoint, Where will we see that? Well, I think we'll see him actually average over 25 points a game. I think we'll see him continue to average over 10 rebounds a game. And I wouldn't be surprised to see him average 4 to 5 assists a game. I think Victor could actually average more than 25 points a game, but there are other people to feed on this team, and that's not the point. This isn't just about Victor getting his stats. But in order for this San Antonio Spurs team to actually start the season off on the right foot, Victor is going to have to carry the team at least through the first month until they figure out all of the pieces and how to make it all work together. Because the last thing Popovich wants to do is get out to a 1-10 start. And I think you can prevent that, Greg, by actually using Victor more in his second year than you did in his first year, especially at the beginning of the season. The kid, the alien that is Wembanyama, is absolutely ready. All right, that's it for tonight's NBA Rundown. Once again, thanks so much for tuning in. If you haven't had a chance to subscribe yet, please subscribe and, of course, like this video. For the NBA Rundown, I am Dave DeBaugh, wishing you all a tremendous rest of your sports viewing day. To the cool new music we go.
This is Phoenix.